John, a couple of weeks into, 11 days into pre-season. From your point of view, coach's point of view, expert's point of view, how's it been?
Really pleasing. And obviously it sounds a bit sort of cliche of how hard they've worked, but the levels of the lads since they've come back in the building have been really, really good. Obviously the process of pre-season doesn't just start on our day one. It's been sort of a 4-week build-up of that 6-week off-season. So it's not just like we've hit the ground running from day one. There's been a process leading into that first day. First 3 days, really pleased with sort of the volume and the outputs that the players sort of contributed to. Obviously in a sense of the data that they produced in their testing, as well as the physical output data from the GPSs, again, has been really, really pleasing. So across the board, the lads have been, different class, and the application and the levels that we appear to be at, even from an early point of pre-season and where we're at, have been pleasing, and I'm really, really happy.
There's a perception, isn't there, from the outside, I think, mainly us, that pre-season is run. That's all you do. But having been around and seen what the guys have been up to, that's not the case, is it?
Yeah, I think, sort of maybe 12, 13, 14 years ago, that might have been the case of, you almost used pre-season to get players fit. Whereas, as we sort of mentioned earlier, they're already coming back in a good physical condition. So we're not almost playing catch up to, right, we need to get to certain levels, because they look after themselves really well in that off season. So listen, there was a few days of running, as you've seen, and sort of how we sort of try and progress it slowly and progressively rather than hitting them really hard. Hence why we were in sort of them first 3 days, from the Wednesday, Thursday and the Friday. Yes, there was quite a bit of running in that sort of early stages for the first 3 days, but with that we're building our sort of strong aerobic basis, which we feel that sort of when we come on to more of our technical and tactical work, that there needs to be that underpinning of that aerobic base, and obviously the players need exposing to some high volume running and sort of high volume work, but hopefully then again in the long run that'll create that robustness that we need to do as the pre-season goes along. And obviously the week that we've just been through now, there's a sort of a larger emphasis on sort of the coaching side of it, the football side of it, so it's not just a case of we're doing long prolonged running. There actually is large elements of football in that, but with a physical element and a physical aspect to that, and that's incorporated through sort of my work and also the coaching staff in hands of how they want to train and the sort of the intensity that they demand from their coaching sessions as well. So it sort of works nicely with the physical and the coaching side as well in sort of how they design their football drills, sort of assist with the physical just as the physical assists with the coaching.
Well, actually, having said that though, it was the first day of the pre-season, I came down to watch, and there was a big running drill, but they had a ball.
Yeah,
it's not just simply...
No, it's not. And listen, there is the odd running session where it is running, but ultimately when you look at it, football's built off running, and they need exposing to that volume. But it's the timing of when you expose them to that volume and sort of how that falls within the schedule and the 6-week plan.
And the boxing?
Something different. We take the load off the legs. We give them more of an upper body hit, and again, there's different ways we can hit them physically. It doesn't all have to be on the grass, and it just again something a little bit different for the lads. They seem to enjoy it, even though they did find it tough. But it's a different aspect of fitness that we look into, and that ties into our S&C work, our sled work, our power work, our strength work. It's not just everything's built off the grass. There's so many sort of this multifaceted approach in a sense of to sort of ultimately create robustness and build on them fitness levels.
Having spoken to Brian, the manager, and Neil Dewsnip as well, they've both spoken about this part of the season as being key. For you, obviously, you think it is, but tell us how important especially the first couple of weeks of pre-season as well.
Yeah, it's massively important. It's sort of like we talk about it a lot. We're building strong foundations and exposing the players to sort of the high volume, and I think the big thing sort of as well in pre-season is we're not too concerned about the aftermath of what we do. So in a sense of if we want to hit them with some sort of quite high sort of strength work, for example, we're not worried about that if we do that on a Thursday, because the demand of the game's not as great certainly early on in the sort of the first few weeks of pre-season. We know that, you know, they may go into a game a little bit stiff or a little bit tired still from, you know, what we've done on a Thursday, but we know that in the long run, because we're not worried about the fixtures, we can get some true strength into them. Whereas obviously when the season starts, our plan is around the game day. We're always looking backwards from a game, and everything we do in training leads into that game day. So we've got to be a little bit more careful, sort of, with some of our, for example, the strength work, that the aftermath of that strength doesn't start to affect the lads physically leading into a game. So we've got that little bit more flexibility in the sense of we know we can hit them. We know the demand of the game is not as, even though they are important, it's just about building match minutes. We're not too concerned about the result. So the aftermath of what we do is not a big worry.
Where do you stand on the match fitness side of things? I'm not saying he's not match fit. He's not, because I suppose that's why you play pre-season matches, isn't it?
Yeah, listen, I think obviously, pre-season's there to physically prepare the players as best as possible for what would be the first game of the season. And obviously, our pre-season's built off the working from that first competitive game, and then we work backwards from there, hence where we come up with the time frame that we do. We're going to try and prepare them as best as possible physically for that first game, but once you hit the end of pre-season, that's it. It doesn't just stop and it's all about the games. It's very much that there'll be a large physical element still running through into the season. For several months really, we'll have our physical days and we'll have our tactical days and our technical days. I think with the actual league games, there's variables that you can't control and you can't really train for, that need to be sort of put into a thought process. So match fitness is progressively built. Like I said, there's so many variables in a league game that you wouldn't get in a pre-season game, and so many variables that we can't train for until they're actually exposed to it. So we'll do as best as we can to prepare them physically, just like the coaches will tactically and technically. But I think certainly from a match fitness, to say someone's match fit and ready to go, is probably looking at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 league games in, really to really judge where we're at. I don't really believe in when you come to the first game and someone's they're not fit enough. Well, it's too early to sort of gauge that. I'm not saying that we'd ever get that here, but you sort of need quite a few games, competitive league games into it to get a true judge of match fitness.
And I suppose that timescale this year will be more to normal, because looking back at last year, when you had to shrink your pre-season up, you had to kind of not see the players really face to face, apart from on the training ground. There wasn't a lot of preparation time, was there? It's obviously a lot better now, isn't it, this year, without the restrictions?
Listen, obviously, what everyone went through from the global pandemic, it is what it is, and there's nothing we can do about that. And certainly it made you adapt. You had to think quite differently. Certainly it's nice now that we're getting some form of normality in a sense of training and what a normal pre-season looks like. Obviously, with the restrictions last year, there was a knock-on effect, not just from the training, but nutritionally, from a recovery point of view, from a social point of view, from a sense of interaction with the players. For the players to get through what they've got through last year was incredible, in a sense of, it was a slightly longer pre-season, but obviously with lots of restrictions, which then had a knock-on effect onto other things like the S&C and things like that, due to obviously being inside. And what the players actually produced during the season was incredible for them, really, because it was literally play, recover, play, recover, play, recover. So to hit the same amount of fixture games in such a condensed period of time will make hopefully a normal season from a planning and a periodisation point of view look quite simple, because we'll be allowed that training time. Obviously the gaps between games will be a lot bigger to one, either do a little bit more recovery, or two, work them even more physically, and which obviously last season we weren't really given that, weren't allowed that training time because of the amount of fixtures. It was literally play, recover, and make sure that they were tactically and technically right from the work the coaches do. So yeah, it's certainly nice to have a normal pre-season, and also everything that comes around with, like I say, nutritionally we can feed them properly. They can recover correctly after training within the building. And obviously, I think as well, one big thing I've noticed already is the social aspect and the interaction with players, and that's from staff to players and players together as well.
Do you actually can you take anything from last year? Like, can you take anything from what you maybe had to adapt and change and think, well, actually, we could implement that this year?
Yeah, I think there was a few aspects, because at times we had to get a bit creative and adapt to what was happening. So yeah, there was a lot of good things that went on. But then in the same breath, it's also nice to be able to get back to some of the basic fundamentals that are part within our training programme that we can now get back to do.
What masters have you got in store for the next couple of weeks? For the players, what have they got to look forward to?
Yeah, listen, it's obviously the volume's now starting to come down a little bit, and the intensity now will start going up. So they'll be working for sort of short periods, but the intensity will be a lot more higher. Obviously, there's still going to be a large emphasis from the coaches. There'll be a larger emphasis on the tactical and technical work, which will take the lead, and we'll just sort of assist that along with some physical work in between.
Brilliant. John Lucas, thank you very much. Appreciate it.